Everybody, thank you all for joining us. So thank you to all the townwide candidates for joining us today. So the mic is not going to be working to make sound, to amplify sound live. The mic is working to make sure that the people who are joining us on Zoom can hear us well. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to listen really carefully and speak loudly if you want people who are here to hear us. But thank you everyone for coming. Thank you especially to the townwide candidates, because I know that you folks have been really busy over the past couple of weeks. And we'll just let Rep. Patolo kick it off if he can finish eating that cookie. And there are cookies here.
There are cookies.
If you want to talk into the mic, the people on
Okay.
Zoom will be able to hear you.
Better now? How about I speak louder and at the mic? Okay. I hope I'm not too loud for Zoom. In any case, for those who don't know me, my name is Representative Tommy Vitolo, and I'll hang out afterwards to say hello. I want to just say two things quickly after I say thank you to the organizers for putting this together and for thinking about multiple precincts and for thinking about doing it outside in a public space where we can be together if we individually are able to be. I think both of those things are really important, and I hope folks start moving in that direction. I'm a little zoomed out. I'm sure many others are as well. I want to say two things quickly. The first is that in addition to my Thursday at 2:30 p.m. television program, which I'm sure all of you watch on Brookline Interactive Group, election night, starting at 7:30 p.m., I will be putting on a 3-hour results show. We're going to be the first to report the results. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have victory speeches. It's going to be phenomenal. We're putting in a lot of hours, Big and I am, to make it really a wonderful program. So I hope that you'll tune in starting after you vote, but starting at 7:30 p.m. on Star Wars Day, Election Day, Tuesday, May 4th. The second thing I want to just quickly mention is my mother's sister, Mary Paradiso. She doesn't go by Mary. She goes by Grace. And Grace is something that we have lost in the last year. And here's what I mean. Life is complicated, and it's hard to communicate our intents under the best of circumstances. It's much more difficult on email. It's much more difficult on Facebook. It's much more difficult on Zoom. And so what I ask is, when you see something that you interpret in a negative way, that makes you feel frustrated or angry or annoyed, take a break and try to figure out if they meant to say it in a different way. And if you can find it's possible that they meant to say it in a way that was not negative, show some grace and give that person the benefit of the doubt, because our community is really struggling with the negative assumptions and the negative interpretations from people who want our community to be strong and healthy, and about people who want our community to be strong and healthy. So let's really work today, up through May 4th, up through town meeting and beyond, to restore some grace to our conversations so that we can all have a better time and get better results advocating for our community. Thank you. This is my daughter's mask. I think mine is maybe, that one's mine.
Thank you for being here.
And I'm gonna have another cookie.
Yes, please have as many cookies as you like. And thank you for being here, Rep. Patolo, and thank you for setting an excellent example for staying in time. To all the candidates, I will be timing you, and then I will let you know when your 2 minutes are up and ask you to conclude with, with that 1 or 2 sentences. Rep. Patolo reminded me that I need to say thank you to Big. Big is live streaming the event. Some folks are watching at home on Channel 3, and they also lent us some of this equipment. So thank you very much to Big. So we'll start now with the moderator candidates. The first candidate is Scott Nanian, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself in 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
2 minutes.
That's
2
what
minutes.
I thought. Everyone's a safe distance away. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Hi, I'm Scott Anania. I'm running for town meeting moderator for Brookline, which is a position which is going to be contested for the first time in over 2 decades. So I thought I'd speak a little bit about why I'm running and what I hope to what I hope to do as moderator. So I'm running to make town meeting represent all of us. Any resident in Brookline. The idea of town meeting is this beautiful democratic ideal, right? All the residents, all of us who live in Brookline are the legislative branch of our government. We can all propose laws, town meeting votes on those, and that's how we make the rules that we all live under. But it hasn't always worked. It hasn't always lived up to those ideals, right? For over 2/3 of its history since 1705, less than 1/2 of our residents could actually participate. And there's still a ways that we can go. So my goal is to make town meeting more welcoming, more kind, more accessible, really lower those barriers to entry. It's not enough just to sort of open the door if the folks who are disadvantaged or disabled or need assistance have to climb a mountain of town process in order to participate, right? We actually have to go out and assertively overcome some of those barriers. We have to look at all of our processes and figure out where we're putting where folks are going astray, right? Where we're not being welcoming, where there's a barrier that's not obvious to them. Going into the schools, going into the senior center. I'm big with my friend Deborah Brown, where we tried to demystify some of that process, and that's the work that I'm really looking forward to doing in the next 3 years. Trying to make town meeting work for all of us. I think we've got some time for questions, so I'm happy to answer more questions. Scott for Brookline is my website. You can see that show there. You can learn more about it. But also, in general, if you've got questions about how town meeting works, whether I'm elected or not, that's the work I'd like to be doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, we will have we'll have 7 minutes for questions for each set of candidates. So next, we're going to hear from Kate Hoberman over Zoom.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? I can't unmute myself.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
So, hi, I'm Kate Poverman, and I have been a resident of Brookline for 28 years. I, with my husband, Rafael Bueno, raised our 2 girls here who went through the public school system, and have the most part taken flight, although COVID interfered with that a little bit. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 35 years, and I have worked with various complex areas of the law, bankruptcy law, security law, and most recently and importantly, zoning law. I'm on the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is maybe a microcosm of town meeting, in that you have meetings that can be quite contentious, that have to be held very fairly. You have to have everyone who wants to have a voice be able to come up to the microphone and feel like they've been heard. And you have to explain things clearly enough and in legal terms so that people can understand why you may not be coming to the decision that they want. So I think that experience in running meetings is critical to the job of moderator, because that's its most visible job. For between 6 and 14 days a year, it runs very complicated meetings with 250 Brookline people who have very strong opinions, let's put it that way. And to try to keep the grace, as Tommy Vitolo said, is not always easy. People sometimes get their backs up when they shouldn't. So one of the benefits of having a legal background is that I can perform one of the most critical aspects of the job, which is to parse legal issues that come up when warrants and articles are presented. So, for example, there might be an issue of whether town meeting has the power to do something that a petitioner wants. And it's necessary to advise the petitioner, look, these are problems, let's try to work it out, talk with town council, see what you can do. In addition, the moderator makes advisory committee appointments and has to reach out to the community, I think, more proactively than has been done in the past to get a diverse body of people who have the skills and knowledge still needed for advisory committee, but have the socioeconomic, demographic, and ethnic diversity that is necessary to represent
Okay,
Brookline.
can you please conclude? Thank you.
One sentence. So
Yeah.
because of my legal knowledge and experience, I think I'm uniquely qualified to be moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will have 7 minutes now for questions. If anybody on Zoom has a question, please raise your hand or use the chat feature. And folks who are here, just raise your hand, I guess. Jenny?
Can you go to the mic so people can hear you?
Even though it doesn't work.
People on Zoom can hear you.
Gotcha. I have heard that it is important or is not important to be a lawyer if you're the moderator. And I just heard from Kate, she says it's very important, but it seems to me that there are many other factors that would weigh in. Scott is here now. I was wondering if he could directly answer that question. Do you have to be a lawyer to be a successful town moderator? Thank you.
I don't know how we're doing alternation of questions here. Okay. We'll figure this all out. No, yeah, with the end of COVID, I expect that we're all going to be fumbling through a lot of these hybrid meetings as time goes on. So we'll figure out how it works. Town meeting time, or the manual procedure that town meeting works under, actually has a decently long description of the role of town moderator, where it tries to clarify that town moderator is not a replacement for town council, right? So there are legal authorities who make those binding decisions for town meeting. One of them is the municipal law office of the attorney general's. One of them is town council. Talking to folks who remember previous moderators in town, Joe Ross, who I was talking to the other day, who remembers four moderators, I think, past, mentioned in his opinion, the best moderator Brookline ever had was Justin Weiner, who was not an attorney either. Certainly, if you look at moderators around town, not all of them are attorneys. I would obviously rely on the advice of town council and of the attorney general's municipal law office as necessary. But I don't think that's the primary role of the moderator. The primary role of the moderator is to organize town meeting. Thanks.
Kate, do you have a answer as well, or?
Okay. Yeah. Do you have to be a lawyer? No, you don't. To be absolutely truthful, but it sure helps. One of the issues is whether or not the moderator recognizes legal questions that arise. You can't consult town council if you don't know that there's not a question. So legal knowledge is a vast leg up, but is it an absolute requirement? No, it's not. Being able to run a meeting, being fair, being diligent are all really important qualities.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question here in person? No? Let's double check the Zoom. Do I see any Zoom questions? Thank you, everybody, by the way, for bearing with us as we try and hold this event in the hybrid manner. No other questions? Well, we can move on then to the select board candidates. Thank you very much to our two moderator candidates. The first select board candidate will be Bernard Green.
Thank you. As everyone knows, I talk a lot, so it would be very difficult for me to squeeze what I want to say into 2 minutes. So I wrote it out, and here it is. I'm Bernard Green. I'd like to first thank Tommy Vitolo for his really important and thoughtful remarks regarding there you are back there, regarding the tone of our discussion here in Brookline. I hope everyone really takes that to heart. I have a 16-year history of working for you in town government, first as member of town meeting, then the advisory committee, and then the select board. And last 2 years, I've been chair of the select board. Most recently, in terms of my accomplishments, we organized the committee on policing reforms, and out of which came the hot in this town. Some of the key issues, I identified 3 in this short period of time. First, how crisis and lockdown stronger than before, and with additional supports for those residents who were particularly hard hit by the lockdown and those who are in continuing distress. This requires a clear-eyed understanding of town finances and the creative ways in which we can find funds to do things outside of the usual expenditures of the town. Secondly, how to provide affordable and middle-income housing and commercial development with a long-term perspective that anticipates the consequences of development on our infrastructure, our neighborhoods, but from the standpoint of the values of our town. And third, how to engage in the necessary, difficult, and contentious discussions that are required to address all of our issues without the toxicity in our conversation that excludes so many residents. I'm Bernard Green, and I thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Nancy Heller. Nancy, if you could please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I believe I have. Am I unmuted, Marissa? Oh, she looks frozen.
I'm frozen. Uh-oh.
I believe so, yes.
Nancy, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. We can hear you, but we can't see you, but I'm sure that'll resolve itself. Why don't you go ahead and start talking?
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Heller, running for re-election to the Select Board. Very interested and passionate about the many issues that the Select Board deals with, and I want to continue progress on those issues and continue to move Brookline forward for our future. As many of you know, I've had a 25-year history of involvement in town governance. Before that, I was many years active in the neighborhood, school, and accessibility issues. Since my election to the Select Board, I've advocated for seniors, and I'm a liaison to the Council on Aging and the chair of Age-Friendly Cities Committee, and a strong supporter of expansion of the Senior Center. This isn't a new passion for me. I worked with Agnes Rogers when I was on the school committee many years ago. We each wanted community-wide support for the building of the Senior Center and for the renovation and new construction of schools. That's my vision today, to continue to build community support for the challenges that face us and to support each other in our quest to make a very good town even better. My husband and I moved here for the schools and for the municipal services that Brookline offered. And my 3 children and now 3 of my grandchildren attend Brookline Public Schools. One of my first acts as school committee was to vigorously support the building of the new Lincoln School. And since then, I've supported other projects, and I'm currently co-chair of the BHS Expansion Advisory Committee, which has been successful in building a 9th grade academy over the MBTA tracks. The Tappan Gym, we're going to renovate. We'll have a new accessibility features, and we'll also have enhanced student faculty spaces, but also new community spaces. I've always been a supporter of the environment and brought my activism to Brookline in a form of a warrant article to ban polystyrene or styrofoam in food packaging, or any kind of packaging, but it's mostly food. The Warren article garnered broad community support, and I've continued my activism. I've co-chaired the Climate Action Committee. I'm very involved in establishing Brookline Green Electricity and working with others to increase community participation in 100% renewable energies through that program. Another focus of mine on the Climate Action Committee is to advocate for National Grid to fix the gas leaks in our streets. I've challenged the gas company in the board's grant of location hearings. As a result, we now require that National Grid survey for any leaks in an area where a street is being torn up and for the leaks and fix the leaks where found. Our gas leak inventory has decreased from approximately 350 to 260, but there's still more to do. And I belong to a regional consortium of municipalities that is also pressing National Grid on this issue. I've also been a strong advocate on the board for neighborhood issues, for racial justice and equality, for diversification of our workforce, and for affordable housing. You can find much more information on my website at hellerforselectboard.com. Thank you for listening.
All right. Can you hear me? Nancy, I'm sorry, we've been having a few technical difficulties here. But I think we're out of time for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Nancy. So the next select board candidate would be Danielle O'Neill. He was unable to join us, but he asked me to share a message with you all. It says, please go to Danielle's website, which is DanielleO'Neill.com, and leave a comment for him. And if you'd like a sign, he has them available. And you can also find an article in the patch about like your support and your vote on or before Tuesday, May 4th. And he also wanted me to give you his phone number, which I didn't print. Hold on. It is 857-243-3602. So if you would like to reach Danielle, you can call that number and go to his website at DanielleO'Neill.com. The next select board candidate is Zoe Lynn, who will be joining us over Zoom.
Hello, can you hear?
Zoe, can you start talking?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Okay, good. We can.
Great. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Zoe Lynn. I'm running for one of the 2 select board seats on the May 4th ballot. For those of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet or work with, a little bit about me. I currently work as an assistant director of business strategy and operations for a biotech in the Boston Metro. Some of you may be aware of my previous leadership on sustainability and climate for the town of Brookline. My professional training is cross-disciplinary in scope, public administration, the sciences, and leadership in the public sector. My experience is in leading community-based strategy and change on tough issues in communities, organizations, and local government. I want to talk a little bit about some of the issues we're facing in Brookline. In Brookline, we have 5 really big issues. I call them wicked challenges, which the Globe real recently referred to, but we're just going to call them complex for right now. And those 5 are climate change. We're part of a global climate crisis. We continue to confront painful issues around racism. We're part of a regional housing crisis. We're not meeting our own affordable housing needs. We have a structural deficit, and this financial challenge for the town is growing each passing year. And we can do better at being inclusive of, caring for, and planning for our seniors, our most vulnerable, fostering a healthy and equitable place to work for our public servants, and caring and being inclusive for all Brookliners. Those are 5 really big challenges we're facing right now. And these challenges require strategic, inclusive, and collaborative leadership. and this is the type of leadership I would bring to the board. The select board, which leads the executive branch of our local government, has a responsibility and is uniquely positioned to facilitate and set strategy, policy, and priorities. These are critical leadership actions to get us on the path to tackling these challenges. The climate strategy I led in 2019 for the town of Brookline as part of staff that reports up the chain to the select board. This strategy that the select board authorized in a series of actions that I walk them through could be applied to solve these 5 big issues that we're facing. We have
Zoe,
seen,
can you please conclude?
yes, we have seen
Thank
this form of leadership work with our town government. We demonstrated it all the way from the beginning through the community-based priority setting, through the approvals of town meeting. And now we're at the stage where we need to do that again and leverage Brookline's extraordinary talent, energy, and commitment to make meaningful progress on these issues. My website is votezoeforbrookline.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. The next and final select board candidate is Miriam Ashkenazi.
I'm short. Oh no, and it doesn't move down. Oh. First of all, thank you so much for coming out. Participation in politics is a really important part of a good, important government. So thank you for taking the time to be here in person and Zoom. Thank you for hosting the event. Thank you to Big. Thank you to Tommy. I always have to thank my campaign staff for whom I would not be able to do any of this. And I just want to get right into it. So for those of you who've heard me speak before, you know I like to talk about intersections. Life happens at the intersections. Nothing is ever truly a silo. And I think when we talk about our community, we need to think about intersections. I'm running, oops, I'm on the wrong speech. Ha ha. There we go. I'm running for select board because I think we need real change in Brookline. We need a government that reflects our values with a clear lens on equity, good governance, and inclusivity. I'm running to bring that kind of change. I want to help Brookline be more deliberate. We are in need of a strategic plan, a clear vision for our town with outlined priorities and a budget aligned and reflective of our priorities. We need transparency and accountability built into our structures, and a strategic plan helps us to do that. We need to plan at the intersection of issues. Climate change is an equity issue. Affordable housing centers around inclusivity, accountability for policing and public safety are at the core of good governance. All of these issues overlap and intersect, and we do right to recognize that, capitalize it, and create a strategic plan with those overlays in mind. To that end, I believe a budget is a statement of our values and our priorities, and we must have a vision, budget, and strategic plan that align to reflect our values as a community. My professional expertise is in building programs, working with scarce resources, and building consensus in culturally diverse environments. This, coupled with my experience as a town meeting member, a parent, a community member, make me an ideal candidate select board. I am an expert at operations and strategic thinking, and at heart, I am a pragmatic optimist. So why should you vote for me? I have the skills to help Brookline develop and execute a strategic plan with a lens on equity, good governance, and inclusivity. I am a progressive and will champion and support progressive politics around climate change, affordable housing, support for seniors and youth, schools and education, just to name a few. I am passionate about Brookline, and I am eager to work diligently for this community to be the best we can be. I encourage you to check out my website, Miriam for Brookline. I have a detailed issues page. Unlike Danielle, I want you to donate. And I have 3 lawn signs. Please don't make me take them home. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to all of the candidates. We have 7 minutes for questions. Anyone have any questions? Again, if you're on Zoom, if you can put the question actually just in the chat, that would be great. I don't see any questions in the chat. Anyone have a question here in person? No? All right, I think everyone's just really excited to hear from our school committee candidates then. So Val, do you want to start? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. We're going to hear from Val Frias first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thanks for coming out. I'm Val Frias. I'm running for the 1-year seat on the school committee. I'm a parent of 2 Brookline 5th graders at Driscoll. I'm a Driscoll mom. I was the co-chair of the Driscoll PTO. I've also served on the Driscoll school building committee, on the principal search, and I've provided guidance to our previous superintendents and school committee on issues of diversity and inclusion on the policy level. I'm a 25-year civil rights attorney, progressive activist, and nonprofit leader. I bring decades of experience in drafting city ordinances and progressive policies at the local, state, and federal level to this job, and I would bring that experience to the school committee. What are my priorities? Well, first of all, I want to make sure that we come out of COVID in a fiscally smart, progressive manner. I currently run an organization with a $50 million budget. I have used a lot of the money that the schools are going to have, some of the CARES Act money, the American Rescue Plan money, and our budgets are value statements, but they also are budgets based on scarce resources. So we need to use those resources smartly to make sure that those values are incorporated into every facet school budget. I want to center student voices, diverse student voices, our BIPOC and API voices, our LGBTQ students. Those voices need to be at the center of all that we do when we're looking at curriculum and when we're looking at school inclusion and a really diverse community here in Brookline that we have and that we need to support fully. Excuse me, I'm also fighting a little bug. I want to expand mental health care. We have students who are coming back into the system who have experienced trauma in their lives, either during the pandemic or simply in their lives. Are we running out of time already? Sorry about that. I want to enhance, again, special ed services. I want to confront the climate crisis with student voices. I want a parent, another parent at the seat at the table at the school committee, and I hope to have your vote. And again, valfrias.com. And look forward to you on May 4th. Thanks.
Okay, the next candidate will be appearing over Zoom. It's Steve, and I also don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Ehrenberg, but I'm sure he'll let us know.
Can you hear me? Marissa, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, Precinct 4. Can you guys hear me? Wave if you can hear me. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen Ehrenberg. I'm a father of 2 girls at Lawrence School, and I'm running for the contested 1-year seat on the school committee. We need a school committee with the broad education experience and expertise to support our students, and I am the candidate in the race with that background. I'm a lifelong education professional. I've worked for the past 15 years designing and directing education programs for global nonprofits. I've led primary and teacher education programs in Rwanda, higher education programs in Afghanistan, access to education programs in Myanmar, STEM and after-school programs in Jordan and South Africa. I have a doctorate in international education policy from Columbia University. As a result, I know and can identify good and promising practices in a very broad range of education areas. This is important because helping our students recover from this past year and to build for the future, that's something that needs education leaders with education expertise. I already volunteer for our education system. I served in our Education Equity PAC, which provided recommendations for improving racial equity across the district, and on expert panel number 3 this past year to support teachers' use of technology throughout the pandemic. Like Val, I manage budgets in the tens of millions. My learning curve as a school committee member will be not very steep. Finally, We need to support our students' return to schools. They have had a tough time. I spent last week talking with a room full of BHS students. I wanted to talk about learning, but they wanted to talk about mental health. We need to make sure that we've fully staffed our social workers and our guidance counselors so that they could recover from this past year's losses. We need a vision for education that aligns with our values and a strategy to realize that vision. In my work, I've brought together disparate factions around the world to create lasting educational change. I want to thank Precinct 4 for showing up in the rain. I want to thank Tommy together, and thank you for your time. I hope it wasn't too choppy.
Thank you. We have some time now for the school committee candidates, if anyone has any questions for them. Anyone in person have any questions? Yes.
I'm just wondering what they see as the enrollment, because a couple of years ago, we were panicked about how many students we have and having enough classrooms, buildings for them. I'm just wondering what they see as our current situation.
So the question is, what is the current situation of the enrollment? So Val, do you want to?
Let me see if I can get this down. So that's okay. So enrollment prediction, they're still coming in, right? So we lost a lot of students to RLA and people who sent their kids to private school, as well as people who didn't send their kids to kindergarten or first grade during the pandemic. We don't know how many of those kids are coming back in the near term. That said, I think that over the long haul, we're going to be on a trajectory of growing enrollment. We're not at the cliff we were at 2 years ago, but I think that once we recover from the pandemic and see students coming back into the district and new students coming up in the district, we'll be back on that growth trajectory. Not quite as steep a climb as we were on, but still a climb.
Can I add to that? Marissa? Okay, so we were down one full school's worth of education population over the pandemic. The projected enrollment, the number of students who have returned have exceeded our projections. That said, I think a lot of people who had out of district children this past year had very positive experiences. So I think we need to increase the competitiveness of our schools right now to attract their students back to the public schools and make sure enrollment goes back up to where it used to be. We need to be focusing on issues of education quality and access for that to happen. Marissa?
The Zoom question is, what is the most important quality that you'll bring to the school committee and how will it fit in with the current school committee? Steve, you want to start?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Thumbs up? Okay. I mean, the most important quality that I would bring to school committee is a deep and broad knowledge of the education sector. That's critical. We're going to be going back to issues of education quality, access, and inclusion that the district was wrestling with before the pandemic. For us to work through that successfully, we need people who can quickly understand, who bring in a knowledge of good practices, and who can sort through the evidence base quickly and efficiently to figure out what education activities to promote. I'll say also, I've been endorsed by the chair and the vice chair of the school committee currently. I was also endorsed by 2 other members of the school committee. I respect these people. I know I can work well with them, and they know they could work well with me. So I think my knowledge of the education sector and my good working relationship with existing members of the school committee mean that it'll be a seamless transition for me.
Sorry, so Steve, we didn't really hear the end of that.
Where was I cut off?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. We're having some technical difficulties here. Maybe maybe we can have Val answer the question, and
And then I'll
just
try
to
again.
remind people, I can see what the question was. I'm not sure why my phone is working as a phone, but my laptop seems to not want to connect to my phone is the problem, I think. So the question is, what is the most important quality that you bring to the school committee, and how will it fit in with the current school committee? And if you
Quality that I bring to the school
Yeah,
committee.
I think actually you're speaking to the
here?
phone. Yeah, sorry.
That's quite all right. So the quality that I bring to the school committee are decades of experience in
Sorry.
decades of experience in decades in policy done and collaborations built. And as we move through the pandemic and need to rebuild our education system and have new resources available to us with the federal government, I've managed those budgets. I've drafted those budgets. I've been responsible for those budgets. So to me, coming through COVID in these next couple of years and being able to work collaboratively, having that experience at the state and the federal and the municipal level is the expertise that I has, and that's the unique skill set that I bring.
Thank you. Thank you to both school committee candidates. I'm sorry that we're having such, yeah. If you have one more quick question.
Do you want to use the mic so they can hear you on Zoom? Maybe. So one of the issues that I've seen over the last few years is a and the school board and the town, which I think has had some really deleterious effects, particularly in the last year or so. And I'm wondering how each of the candidates thinks about the union and would think about healing that rift if you would.
Let's see, Steve, can we hear you?
Sure, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Marissa? Should I type my answer? Marissa, can you hear me?
Do you want to try some? I'm really not sure where this is.
Am I speaking to the phone or into the mic?
You're speaking to the
I can hear you.
Into the mic, okay.
Oh, yes.
Stephen's
Yes,
speaking.
yes.
So shall I go ahead?
Okay, do you want to answer the question?
Marissa, would you like me to answer the question? Marissa, I'm going to type my answer.
Yes? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to answer. Wish me luck. So the conversation
Okay.
about education
Okay,
right now
so
is
you wanna
really
give
hostile.
I'm so sorry. This is,
We're
I'm
all
gonna
learning the
type.
hybrid model. So yes, there have been certainly some disagreements between the union, the district, parents, and you know, what I would bring to that, I don't know if anybody has heard Dr. Guillory's take on this, but I think that it's a good one. The incoming superintendent, and his view is that you need to build the relationship and continue the relationship, not just in contract years, but all the time, and have that conversation going all the time. I agree with that philosophy. I think that the more you talk and you take issues that are not money related off the table, have that ongoing collaboration and communication, the more positive that relationship is, and less acrimonious those negotiations become. And I think that's how we rebuild students and the broader community in Brookline.
okay, thank you. Stephen has typed, the education conversation in Brookline is hostile right now. We need forums where the school committee and the BEU and the community are talking about issues where we have common ground. I've spoken with Jess, Wender, Schubau, and incoming Superintendent Guillory, and they will support me in promoting those conversations. In my career, I've spent much time bringing disparate groups together. This is my skill. Thank you, Stephen, for typing that. Okay, so thank you to the school committee candidates and to all the townwide candidates. Now we'll hear from, we have 6 precinct 4 town meeting member candidates. There are 5 for the 5 3-year seats, and then we have 1 candidate for the 2-year seat. So the first town meeting member candidate is Sarah Bowes. Are you here? She's not here. Jenny? Our candidate for the 2-year seat is Jenny Raitt.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much to Marissa for organizing this event. She is amazing. I met her not very long ago, and I'm just so impressed by her, and we all should be, because her enthusiasm for Precinct 4 is contagious. So thank you to Marissa. And thank you to all of you for coming out today. I think, the weather is not awesome, but at least it cleared up, and so I'm glad to see so many people here. I'm glad to see people on Zoom. I'm Jenny Raitt. I'm running for the 2-year seat for town meeting. I've lived in Brookline Village, in the heart of the village, since 2013 with my family. My daughter attended the Pierce School and then the Brookline High School, is now in college, but of course living at home thanks to COVID. It's been quite a year for all of us. And in my own experience in Brookline, I've served on the Housing Advisory Board for a number of years. And I've really seen that there's so much more potential that can happen in Brookline. Brookline has my heart, and I'm ready to give to Brookline what I have in expertise as well as passion. My expertise is in professional planning and community development. I've worked in government for 25 years, and I have a lot to give this community in terms of thinking about, to Miriam's point, intersectionality. Housing relates to so many different issues in this community, and we have so much to benefit from the expertise of community members and the knowledge and passion of community members. And we also have a lot to learn about how housing relates to transportation, economic development, climate, all the things that we talk about, inclusion, racial equity. And I have a lot to say about that and a lot to share. I also want to share my passion for this precinct. It's meant the world to my family. It's been a nurturing place, a place that I've really grown to love, and I'm ready to give back. In particular, I'm ready to give back to my side of the precinct, which is in Harvard Square, down there. Not much representation on that side of the precinct, but a lot going on. We have a really important business district and a business community, and I'd love to see it lifted up as a result of this pandemic. People have been hurting, and I want to see us thrive together in the future. So my website is rateforbrookline.com. I ask you to vote for me. I am uncontested, but I still hope that you will vote for me. And I want to thank you. Thanks so much again.
I think we have, our next candidate is Danielle Fishman, and I think he's on Zoom.
Marissa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Let me know if there are issues with the audio and I can send the speech. First of all, I want to thank Marissa for putting on such a great event. Sorry I'm not able to be with you all today. I am a father, I'm a lawyer, I'm a longtime progressive activist in Brookline, and I'm proud to be part of town meeting so that we can go big and address some of our really hard challenges. I'll keep it brief, but I want to give a quick plug to encourage everyone to vote yes on question 2 to support the Community Preservation Act. It is a rare opportunity to add to the pie, to increase funding for affordable housing, and to keep and preserve our open spaces. So it's been endorsed by all of the candidates this year, townwide candidates, and the vast majority of town meeting, and I urge you all to vote yes on question 2. Thank you very much.
So Marty is next.
Hi, I'm Marty, AKA Martha Farlow. I've lived here in Precinct 4 for over 50 years, and most of that 50 years was teaching in the schools in Brookline. I have a very strong interest in how the schools are doing and worked hard to get candidates on the board, on the school board in the last few years to make a difference. And then COVID, boom. I am very concerned about I couldn't believe that many kids did not have access to Wi-Fi during this past year. That's unconscionable in our town, I think. And I'm willing to give part of our general budget to upgrading some of those facilities at the very least. We all look forward to getting along this time, Zoom or not, on town meeting. Thank you.
All right, I'm next. I'm Marissa Vogt, and I've been a town meeting member for a year. I was caucused in last year after someone resigned, and it's been fun getting to know some of our neighbors. And I am a senior research scientist at BU. I study planetary space physics. I study the magnetic fields of planets like Jupiter and Mars. That's what I do in my spare time, I guess, when I'm not wrangling the two kids that you've seen eating all of the cookies, Tommy and Victoria. Tommy's going to be 4 soon and will be going to BEEP, and Victoria's 18 months. And they're pretty much my reason for doing this. You know, I want to make sure that they're growing up in a community where we take care of our most vulnerable residents, where we have good schools, and where we have, you know, a really inclusive and equitable town. So thank you all for joining us. And last is Sarah. Oh, we have one more person, Sarah. So this is Sarah Axelrod. I just wrote down A. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Axelrod, running uncontested for one of the 5 seats. Yes, sorry, I'm Sarah Axelrod, running uncontested for one of the town meeting precinct 4 seats. And okay, and I'm a Bowker Street resident. I can see my house from here, but I'm really excited, and we've worked hard to try to get not just Bowker and Linden folks be our town meeting members. So thrilled to have some folks who are representing the other parts of our precinct. So I think I've been a town meeting member for it's over 25 years. And I think what I would say is there are multiple critical issues that the town is facing. And one of our challenges is to prioritize them so that the appropriate time and financial resources are made available. I would say affordable housing and addressing social justice issues rise to the top of my list, but they're followed closely by issues in the school system, senior services, development, and budget allocations. A top priority for me is how we have civil and respectful discourse as we work. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? It is an uncontested race, but you know, your vote still is appreciated, I think, for everybody. And there, you know, we've heard from all the townwide contested candidates. So please, everybody, make sure to vote. We had our first day of early voting yesterday, and there's more early voting on Tuesday and Thursday. Then, of course, the polls are open on Tuesday, May 4th. Oh, we had one more question from the audience for the select board. Yeah, so there was, if any of the select board candidates are still here, we had a question about, the question just says, what is your approach to NETA? So if we want to start with maybe the 2 folks who are here, and then we can move to the Zoom. Bernard and Miriam?
Netta. Who wants to talk about Netta? Netta came into Brookline with a bang. Came in with huge number of customers and an unclear understanding in town, as well as by Netta, of what this new cannabis industry was going to be and how it had to deal with sort of spillover effects. And of course, the spillover effects in the Brookline Village area were very, very significant. As a select board, we try to figure out, what do we do in terms of using, DPW resources to, clean up some of the mess that was made, as well as getting Netta itself to engage in addressing some of the problems they've created. And then we created the Cannabis Advisory Committee and have a new cannabis person in the select board's office to deal with both the money that we get from the community agreement, as well as other ways that we can make sure that the cannabis industry in Brookline, both here in Brookline Village as well as elsewhere, is not going to be as problematic as it started out with. Another issue that we're dealing with is the fact that Netta has been taken over by big and that's created some problems that we're trying to address. We had a very good CEO of Netta, Amanda Rossitano, who's very responsive to a lot of our concerns. We don't think that the Florida and Georgia-based executives of that organization are going to be as concerned about what's going on in Brookline as she was. So it's going to be a continuing struggle. We've accomplished a lot, but we have a lot more to go, a lot more things to do.
So I think it's a great question. I think it's important to recognize that Netta serves a purpose in our community and that Netta represents an industry that is here to stay. Medicinal and recreational cannabis is here. So I support both. Whether you support both or not, it's here. So I think we really do have to think about thoughtful, careful regulation that takes into account how the communities surrounding these businesses are cared for, and at the same time making sure that access is equitable, and that cannabis is an equity issue. Recreational cannabis is about equity. For a very long time, communities of color really suffered greatly for offensive drug offenses, and so when we look at how we interact with the cannabis industry, we need to have that lens on the decisions that we make and on the ways we think about how the money is spent, how we tax and then redistribute. So I think we do have to have regulations. We do have to work, just like Bernard said, I agree, very collaboratively, and always have a lens on what's happening in the community, but also always have an equity lens on this issue as well. Thank you. And I have one more yard sign.
Anybody? Nancy, would you like to tackle that question?
Sure. So as Bernard mentioned, we have a Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee that I'm the chair of now, and that has community members from the two districts that now have cannabis retail facilities, Netta and Sanctuary. When Netta first came here, they were the only game in town. We had no experience, nor had any other communities really, with dealing with the issues that arose. I worked with the neighborhood to talk about those issues and to figure out what we could do. And now that we have a Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee, we're able to figure out how to spend the community host agreement funding that we get from NETA. We have to be careful to follow the rules that are laid out in the state statute, which call for us to expend those monies to deal with the operational impacts, the budgetary impacts of NETA on our community. We've recognized that there are some who would like us to promote racial advancement and justice with these funds, and we would very much like to do that. And we have submitted a warrant article to town meeting to ask our state legislators to change the rules so that we can do that. But in the meantime, we also expect that the issues that NETA faced, that the community faced, I should say, from NETA when it first began, will have dissipated somewhat because we now have many other retail marijuana facilities. We have one on Beacon Street, but we also have one in West Roxbury and in other parts of Boston and in other communities surrounding us. So there isn't quite the same demand on NETA that there was in the beginning. We expect also that there will be 2 more facilities in Brookline, both on Commonwealth Avenue, and they have been approved, I think, by the Cannabis Control Commission, which is a state agency. And we're working now with licensing them and making sure that they abide by the regulations that we set forth. So it's a work in progress. And we will, the fact that we had COVID for so many months now has absolutely calmed down the situation in the village. But I'm sure there's more we can do, and we're hearing about it at the Cannabis Control Mitigation Advisory Committee meetings, and I urge you all to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. Oh.
Hello, can you hear me? Sounds like that's a thumbs up, at least on the Zoom side. Okay, we can go with that. I think this is a great question. I think it's a really good example of the type of leadership we need on the board. So I think that for NETA, moving forward and other complex and community-based issues like this, we need to have really robust community planning upfront of the decision-making. That needs to happen first. It needs to be integrated with our financial and economic development strategy. And also, and this is really important so that we can actually fund and prioritize equity and racial justice issues. It needs to be integrated with staff expertise at the same time. The select board leads that and certainly could help bring that expertise into the conversation so that we get it right from the get-go. And it needs to be done with a select board that's listening and collaborating to get it right. This public sector leadership is really important, and it's needed for a number of areas that we're really struggling on. And this is the area that I'm trained, and this is what I bring to the board. This is what I've done before. And we have a lot of work to do. So yeah, thank you. If anybody heard me. I don't know if I'm talking to myself or not, but